So those who accepted his message were baptized, and that day about 3,000 people were added to them, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to the prayers. So this is the first church in Jerusalem, formed as a group when the Apostle Peter preaches on the day of Pentecost. And that's their character. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to the prayers. Do you notice that all those things are about relating to God as a community? That was their character. They were talking to God, celebrating God's grace, and doing that as a community in fellowship and in taking the Lord's Supper together. But they devoted themselves to that. They were devoted to the fellowship, celebrating the grace of God. Because God had done so much for them, because they were so aware of that, they gave themselves back to Him. That's probably the definition of a Christian, isn't it? We give our whole selves to God. We're now disciples of Christ. We're followers of God. We're reborn. We're remade. We dedicate ourselves to God. Devotion is the right word, because it's a giving of yourself because of the response of love. There's a dedication and a love in it. God's done so much for us. Our hearts overflow back to Him, and that brings our whole lives. So let me encourage you, as we've thought about prayer and the Lord's Supper and the teaching and the fellowship, to devote yourself. Sometimes we need to actually stop and do a bit of a stock take, a bit of a life inventory, a bit of a self-check, and ask ourselves, what am I devoted to? What is it that gets my time, my attention, my focus, my energy? What is it I worry about? What is it I care about? For these guys, it was celebrating God's grace together as a community. I think in our modern busy life, particularly if we let the world shape us, the priorities we get from school, the priorities we get from work, the priorities we get from family, the priorities we get from our culture, if we let them shape us, we can actually squeeze our time for God out, and our devotion gets squashed into a little 1-hour slot. And I don't think they did that here. I think they devoted and their time for God overflowed. So maybe this week's a good time to do a bit of an inventory. Do I leave enough time in Sunday for devotion to the Word? Do I leave enough time in Sunday to lead my family in grace? To just be at church and be the last one to leave and go out for lunch with someone in fellowship? Do I give myself enough time to pray? Do I give myself enough time to remember God's grace? Do I call it to mind? Am I devoted? Because devotion is one of those things that the more you give, the more you receive. You can't be too devoted to God. You can't give too much to God. You can't live too well, too right, too holy, too nobly. All that we give to God, He repays now and in the next life, so that being devoted to God is in fact the only way to live. We'll falter, and that's where His grace picks us up. We won't get it right, and that's why we're learning, but we are devoted. And it's great to be part of a church that sees that as a family thing, as a devoted together thing, as a growing thing, as a grace thing. So God bless you this week. As you think about that, may you grow ever more and more devoted to our Lord together with us as we grow in His grace. God bless you.